Hi, I'm Kelly Bron Johnson, and I'm an autistic and hard of hearing self-advocate, and I'm also the founder of Completely Inclusive. So what advice do I have for companies and organizations to make the workplace more inclusive? So I could probably write a whole book just about this, about trying to make workplaces more inclusive for neurodivergent people. A lot of it comes down to acceptance and understanding. Understanding that no two individuals are the same. So we can't look at people as a diagnosis. So even though you might have two employees that have the same diagnosis, let's say they're both dyslexic, they might not have the same needs. So it's important not to make assumptions about what somebody might need before you meet them, before you talk to them. In the end, most people know exactly what they need already. And then when they get on the job, they can have an opportunity then to try out different things and then see what works for them. So it's about having that open dialogue, about having that openness to discuss, adjust, see what you can do, being flexible to what person might need. So, rather than assume that if you make an accommodation for one person, that you have to do it for everyone, that's simply not the case. That's not true, right? One example I love to use is how, let's say one person goes to the workplace, the stock room, and they pick up a blue pen, and that's what they want to use for the day. Does that mean that everybody else in the whole office has to get up and get a blue pen as well, and that they all must change and all use a blue pen? No, we know that that's not true, right? And so it's more about having different kinds of pens. So have red pens, have blue pens, have pink pens, have highlighters, have pencils. Have those like a toolbox of ideas, accommodations, and things that people like to use, and then allow people then to choose what they feel they need and what they think is going to help them do their job best. So in my book, Parent Like an Autistic, it says, autistic parents know from our own experience and our own developmental timeline varies greatly from the neurotypical norm. So we don't parent from the same place of fear. We know that our children will get where they need to be in their own time. So what is something parents can do to alleviate the many pressures and worries that they have about raising their autistic or neurodivergent children? I'd say this is actually a similar issue to the workplace accommodation. It really comes down to acceptance and understanding. And so when I talk about not parenting from a place of fear, there's a lot of pressure on the outside, a lot of professionals who will say things that are very scary and I think that are also simply not true. None of us have crystal balls, right? We don't know what the future of this person is going to be. And I have a problem with professionals who will say things like your child will never walk or your child will never speak. I don't think that's really fair to say when you're looking at a 2 or 3-year-old or even a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. I really do believe in the potential of all people. I believe that everybody has the potential to learn. And I believe we all have the potential to develop and mature, provided that we're given an opportunity and space to do those things. But what's most important in the end is this patience and time. A lot of the things, some interventions that are brought in, that parents are encouraged to use, yes, they do work to some extent, but they come at a great cost to the individual. There can be a lot of struggle and long-term trauma even that's not beneficial to the individual. And a lot of these things would have happened anyway if the child had just been given enough time. And so time is a really important factor here, and about not being scared. Don't be scared about what's going to happen in the future. Okay, just understand that with time, everybody has the chance. So have faith, have confidence in your child to get where they need to be in their own time, and if given enough space and opportunities to try. And we have to be able to try and make mistakes too. That's how everybody learns. and just give them a longer timeline to get to those skills. What can we do to remove the limiting labels that are often associated with autism? Again, it comes down to understanding and acceptance. So one thing I talk about a lot is how we don't necessarily need kind of awareness days. I feel that now everybody's kind of aware that these things exist, that disability exists, that autism exists. But now it's about kind of moving a bit further along than that. And so trying to understand exactly what autism is. And again, despite the fact that everybody's unique and we might be in different parts of the spectrum, so to speak, we might have very different challenges, or what they call spiky development. Some things might be very developed in some areas, and some places we seem to be very behind. And so understanding that the individual is what we need to look at, and not kind of trying to put a blanket label on anybody. And of course, you know, in addition to autism, a lot of us autistic people, we may have what we call comorbid conditions. So we often struggle with our mental health. We often struggle with anxiety. Many of us struggle with epilepsy or skin condition, connective issues like Ehlers-Danlos. There's many different things that can also influence. You know, some of us might be intellectually disabled as well. So there's many things that can influence the way that our autism presents in the world and the way that it affects us and our bodies. And so you can't just put a label on one person. It's the same way that like you can't put a label on all Black people. And you know, I have light skin, but I'm still a Black person. And there's going to be darker people than me, right? So we're not going to have the same experience in life. We have completely different experiences, despite the fact that we share a skin tone. And so it's the same thing with autism. You know, a female autistic is going to have a different experience from a male autistic, and that's going to be different from somebody who's in their 60s, and then somebody who grew up, you know, earlier on, it might be in their 20s right now. Lots of different things can influence the reason that we present differently. And so people need to keep an open mind, and that there's no one single way to be autistic other than that we share a diagnosis.